Now to someone who has not only studied Vladimir Putin, but he had to deal with the threat of his reign firsthand. Army Colonel Costa served more than 2 decades working in intelligence with Special Operations Forces, advising several U.S. presidents on terrorism, and served as Senior Director for Counterterrorism at the National Security Council. He's now the Executive Director of the International Spy Museum here in Washington, D.C. Chris, always great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me, Kira. Great to see you.
Well, you know, you and I have been talking a lot since Putin has moved into this invasion phase of things, and just getting your perspective and looking back at your career, knowing how Putin operates. You have studied him. You have worked up strategies to deal with the threat of Vladimir Putin. Take us inside as an intelligence officer for so many decades. To you, who is Putin?
Yeah, so I think it's a bit of a cumulative effect, right? It is based on the fact that he's an authoritarian leader. He also perceives that he's been humiliated by the dissolution of the Soviet Union, and he is seeking revenge. And as your previous reporting has suggested, very well, I might add, is the fact that he was a former KGB officer. That really is his identity. He has cloaked himself in that identity. So what does that mean? We heard some of it in the previous segment. It means he's a fighter, a survivor. He's a tough guy. That's how he perceives himself. He is the man, proverbial man without a face. He tries to be a gray man. Although he has been a principal leader for many, many years, we don't really know who Putin is. And we've seen a slow radicalization, if you will, if I could take some liberty with that word. He is radicalized to the point where he is taking significant greater and greater risks, and that is a problem, wrapped in the fact that he is also an opportunist and he's entrenched in his beliefs. This is a dangerous combination and cumulative effect of years of his essentially running a nation, and doing so without the kind of constraints that the West has, with certainly checks and balances. So it is very disturbing to me that you now have Putin playing out in such a fashion right now. This is great power competition playing out before our very eyes. You know,
so clearly this conflict is about Putin. It's not about Russia. So why is he picking this particular moment to make this move? Why now?
Yeah, so I've reflected on that, and I think there are 4 key points. First and foremost, Afghanistan, the strategic withdrawal, the complete withdrawal out of Afghanistan. It didn't have a good look. It was poorly executed. And there's a perception that the United States is weak. I think that's wrongheaded. We're not weak. We're a great nation. In fact, we will be galvanized by Putin's actions. It might take some time. That's the first point, though, Afghanistan and a perceived weakness. The second point is he may perceive that there's disunity across Europe. Plus, we have a change in government, or a change in leadership in Germany, a new chancellor, unchallenged. He may perceive that, again, NATO isn't strong. I think that's wrongheaded, and that's starting to bear out. You see that this is really going to galvanize NATO. It's going to redouble the West. And third, we do have a polarized United States, but it's not just the United States that's polarized. Other countries across the world are dissatisfied with their governments. And last, you and I have spoken about this. I'm taking, again, some liberties here. This is a war, unquestionably. It's an invasion of the Ukraine. But in some ways, I look at this as a reconnaissance in force. What does that mean? He is testing the United States and the West's strengths, our resolves. He's trying to discover our vulnerabilities. He's trying to discover our weaknesses. He's looking for opportunities. He is testing us, in short. And he wants to see our reactions. This is not just going to happen in Western Europe, and that's a key point. It's going to happen in Africa. We have been tested in Syria while we're waging a counterterrorism campaign relatively successfully. At the same time, we're operating in the same space with Russians. Russia will continue to be a spoiler.
So then sanctions clearly not working. He's not paying attention. Vladimir Putin is not paying attention to that right now. The president is saying he realizes that. He will pay attention when his country is so weak he has no other choice. Is that what's going to happen here? Is it going to take Russia becoming so weak that finally Vladimir Putin goes, okay, I don't have any money, I don't have any resources, I can't build ships, I don't have a space program, I can't get any money, I can't deal with the West. All right, I'm done, I give up. Is that really how this is going to go down, knowing what you know about Vladimir Putin?
No, I don't think so. I think the sanctions are going to take effect. They're going to be crippling over time, and they have to be crippling over time. But I think that in some ways this will be, in time, self-correcting, and it's painful. My heart goes out to the Ukrainian people, but the Ukrainians will rise up. They will put pressure on Putin, and young Russian soldiers, many of them may be conscripts, will go back to Russia and be buried by their families. This is not going to be an easy invasion. It's not going to be without a great deal of casualties on the Russian side as well. Remember, it's easy to kick off an invasion when you can pick the time and place and you have the right amount of forces arrayed, the right appropriate correlation of forces to vanquish your enemy. But it is a whole lot more difficult to install a puppet government than to police a restive population. And the Ukrainians are not going to accept a puppet government and Russians essentially treating them like a vassal state. So they're going to turn on the Russian armed forces. And again, Putin is going to rely on what he knows. He's going to rely on his clandestine capabilities. He's going to rely on covert action. He's going to rely on his intelligence services to kill people, to assassinate them, to kidnap them. And of course, meanwhile, the world has to continue to isolate Putin and put pressure on Putin. And again, I make the point, it is Putin. As you suggested, it is not the Russian people.
Chris Costa, appreciate your time and your analysis. We'll continue to talk to you as we continue to cover the ongoing crisis there in Ukraine. Appreciate your time.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.